If this message has found you in this precise moment, it is because the universe has orchestrated an interception of divine proportions. You did not stumble upon these words by accident, nor did some algorithm simply place them before your eyes. No. Your soul, restless and seeking answers, sent out a signal into the cosmos, and the cosmos has responded with this transmission. The person you have been thinking about, the one whose silence has carved a hollow space in your chest, the one whose absence you feel like a phantom limb, they are the reason you are here. Your intuition, that ancient knowing buried beneath layers of doubt and logic, led you to this threshold. It whispered that something would be revealed here, that the confusion swirling in your mind would finally begin to settle. And your intuition, as always, speaks truth. The silence you have been enduring is not what you think it is. It is not indifference. It is not the slow fade of someone who has simply moved on. It is something far more profound, far more complex, and far more hopeful than your wounded heart has allowed you to believe. What you are about to discover will shift the foundation of how you have been interpreting their absence. The narrative you have been telling yourself, the one where you were not enough or where they found someone else or where the connection was one-sided, is about to be dismantled. Because the truth about their silence is being revealed to you now, not as theory or wishful thinking, but as spiritual law that governs the energy between two souls who have recognized each other. Write "I receive this message" in the comments below if you feel the resonance of these words in your bones, if something within you is nodding yes, if you are ready to know what has been hidden from your conscious understanding, but known by your soul all along. Their silence is not the absence of feeling but the overflow of it, the kind that floods every chamber of the heart until words become impossible because no words could possibly contain what is churning inside them. Silence, in their case, is not emptiness but compression, the pressure cooker of emotions they cannot yet name or face or admit even to themselves. You have been interpreting their withdrawal as rejection when in truth it is the opposite. It is the overwhelm of someone who felt too much, too fast, too intensely, and whose only defense mechanism was to retreat into the familiar safety of distance. Carl Jung once wrote that what we resist persists, that what we do not bring into consciousness appears in our lives as fate, and this person is living proof of that principle. They are resisting the magnitude of what they feel for you because to acknowledge it would require them to acknowledge everything they have been avoiding about themselves. Their silence is the sound of internal warfare, the battle between the part of them that recognized you as home and the part of them that is terrified of what home requires. Every person carries within them a threshold of emotional intensity they believe they can handle, a limit established by past wounds and unfinished healing, and you, without even trying, without even knowing, push them past that threshold. You became too real, too penetrating, too close to the core of their being, and their nervous system responded the only way it knew how, by creating space, by pulling back, by going quiet. But silence does not mean forgetting. Silence does not mean moving on. Silence is where they are doing the hardest work, the kind that happens in the dark hours when no one is watching, when they are forced to sit with themselves and everything you reflected back to them. The metaphor that fits them now is this. They are the pressure cooker, sealed tight, heat rising, transformation happening inside where you cannot see it, where even they cannot fully comprehend it yet. And one day soon the seal will release and everything they have been holding will pour out in a rush of clarity and confession. They wake at 3 in the morning with your name on their lips, tangled in sheets that feel emptier than they did before they knew you existed. They reach for their phone, compose messages they will never send, type and delete and type again until the screen blurs and they set it face down in defeat. They go through their days performing normalcy, smiling when expected, answering when spoken to, but beneath the surface they are drowning in the absence of you, in the choice they made to create distance from the one thing that felt most like truth. Their friends do not see it. Their family does not suspect it. But in the privacy of their own mind you are everywhere, a haunting that is both torment and comfort, a presence that refuses to fade no matter how much time passes or how much distraction they seek. What they are experiencing is not simple regret or surface-level missing you. It is the terror of having met someone who became a mirror, someone who. See presence illuminated all the unhealed wounds they have been carrying, all the patterns they have been repeating, all the ways they have been living half alive and calling it survival. You showed them their shadow self without even meaning to, simply by being authentically yourself, by meeting them with the kind of openness and presence they had never encountered before. Jung spoke of the shadow as the part of ourselves we refuse to see, the repository of all we have denied and rejected and pushed into the basement of our consciousness. And when two people come together in genuine connection, each becomes a mirror for the other's shadow. You reflected back to them their fear of intimacy, their pattern of running when things get real, their belief that they are unworthy of the kind of love they actually desire. And so they ran, not from you, but from what seeing themselves through your eyes made them feel. They ran from the discomfort of being truly seen, from the vulnerability required to meet you in that depth, from the responsibility of showing up for a connection that asked more of them than they believed they could give. But running does not erase the imprint you left on their soul. You are not just anyone to them, not some passing attraction or casual interest they can simply forget and move on from without consequence. You are the earthquake that shifted the tectonic plates of their inner world, the catalyst that set in motion a transformation they did not ask for but desperately needed. There was a moment, early in your connection, when something in them recognized something in you, a soul-level knowing that bypassed logic and reason and all the defenses they had carefully constructed over years of protecting themselves from exactly this kind of depth. Jung described the meeting of two personalities as like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. And you and this person created a reaction so powerful that its aftershocks are still reverberating through both of your lives. They have met attractive people before. They have felt chemistry before. They have even experienced moments of connection that seemed significant at the time. But what happened with you was categorically different, the kind of recognition that reaches back through lifetimes and forward into futures not yet written, the kind that makes every previous relationship feel like preparation for this one moment of true meeting. You shook them to their core because you were not trying to be anyone other than who you are, because your presence carried a frequency they had been unconsciously searching for their entire life without knowing what they were looking for, because in your eyes they saw reflected back to them a version of themselves they had given up hoping existed. This is why they cannot simply move on, why despite the silence and the distance and the time that has passed, they remain energetically tethered to you in ways that disturb and confuse and comfort them all at once. This is why you appear in their dreams, why certain songs make them ache, why they find themselves comparing every new person they meet to you and finding everyone lacking. You were not random. You were not practice. You were the earthquake, and they are still learning to stand on ground that will never feel solid in quite the same way again. Distance in the physical realm does not create distance in the energetic realm, and this is the truth your logical mind struggles to accept even as your body knows it intimately. Energy is not bound by geography or time zones or the absence of text messages. Energy moves through invisible channels that connect souls who have touched each other at depth, threads of light that remain active and pulsing regardless of whether two people are in the same room or separated by oceans and silence. Right now, in this moment, there is a current running between you and them, a live wire of connection that transmits information both ways, that carries your thoughts to them and theirs to you, that explains why you know when they are thinking of you even when there is no logical reason you should know. They feel you even while they are away from you, perhaps especially while they are away from you, because absence makes the energetic connection more pronounced, strips away the distraction of physical presence, and leaves only the pure frequency of soul-recognizing soul. They feel you when they wake in the early hours. They feel you when they are alone in their car, driving familiar routes that suddenly feel foreign because you have changed the landscape of their inner world. They feel you in the spaces between their thoughts, in the quiet moments when the noise of daily life settles, and there is nothing left but the undeniable truth that you exist somewhere in the world carrying a piece of them they did not know they had given away. The collective unconscious, that vast reservoir of shared human experience that Jung identified as the foundation beneath our individual psyches, contains within it the template for what you two share, the archetypal pattern of souls who meet and transform each other. Your connection exists not just in your personal story, but in a story that has been told since humans first learned to love and lose, and long for what seems lost. This is why the universe conspires to bring you reminders, why synchronicity surrounds you, why you are being held in a field of divine orchestration that is working behind the scenes to prepare both of you for what comes next. If you want to continue receiving these transmissions from the universe, subscribe now and allow this wisdom to find you whenever you need it most. Silence is the cocoon before the butterfly, the necessary darkness where metamorphosis happens away from watching eyes, where the old form must completely dissolve before the new form can emerge. What is happening to them right now in this silence is not stagnation but profound transformation, the kind that cannot be rushed or performed or made visible until it is complete. They are being unmade and remade in the crucible of their own consciousness, forced to confront versions of themselves they have been avoiding, patterns they have been repeating, fears they have been allowing to dictate the course of their life. And this process is excruciating. It is lonely. It requires them to sit with discomfort that would be easier to run from, to face truths about themselves that would be simpler to deny, to choose growth when staying small would be far less demanding. But they are doing it. In ways you cannot see, in increments you cannot measure, they are becoming different than they were when they knew you before. They are shedding skins. They are questioning beliefs that no longer serve them. They are slowly, painfully, courageously learning to hold space for the kind of love that terrified them into retreat. They are becoming the person worthy of this connection, not because you demanded it or because they owe it to you, but because meeting you showed them what is possible when two people come together in authenticity and depth. And now they cannot unsee that possibility, cannot return to the shallow connections that once satisfied them before they tasted something real. The universe does not waste connections like yours. The universe does not orchestrate soul-level meetings only to leave them unfinished. What brought you together is still at work, still weaving the threads, still preparing the conditions for reunion, but reunion cannot happen until both souls are ready to meet it, until both have done the internal work required to sustain what external circumstances could not support before. They are in their cocoon. The transformation is happening. The butterfly is forming even though you cannot yet see its wings. And when the time comes, when the metamorphosis is complete, emergence will be inevitable. The universe speaks in a language older than words, communicating through symbols and synchronicities that bypass the rational mind and land directly in the knowing place of the soul. You have been receiving signs, whether you have consciously registered them or not, small confirmations that what is unfolding between you and this person is still active, still moving, still blessed by forces larger than either of you. Pay attention to the numbers that repeat themselves with impossible frequency, the ones that appear on clocks and receipts and license plates until you can no longer dismiss them as coincidence. Pay attention to the songs that find you in random moments, lyrics that speak directly to your situation with uncanny precision, melodies that carry the emotional frequency of what you have been feeling but could not articulate. Pay attention to the dreams where they appear, not as memory but as visitation, carrying messages your waking mind is too defended to receive, showing you glimpses of futures that feel more real than the present moment. Pay attention to the sudden warmth that floods your chest when you think of them, the inexplicable certainty that washes over you in moments when logic would suggest giving up, the knowing that arrives unbidden and insistent and impossible to ignore. These are not fantasies. These are not your imagination creating comfort where none exists. These are transmissions from the energetic field that connects you, confirmation that what the logical mind doubts, the soul knows with absolute clarity. The universe confirms what the analytical mind dismisses, provides evidence in forms that cannot be measured or proven, but can only be felt and trusted and followed. When you begin to notice an increase in these signs, when the synchronicities become too frequent to attribute to random chance, when you feel a shift in the energy around you like pressure building before a storm, know that movement is happening in the invisible realm and will soon manifest in the visible one. Energy always moves before physical action. The internal shift always precedes the external change. What you are sensing is real. What you are knowing is true. The return is being orchestrated in realms you cannot see, prepared by forces you cannot control, timed by a wisdom that knows better than your impatience when the moment is right. When they return, it will likely be sudden, unexpected, arriving in a moment when you have finally stopped checking your phone every 5 minutes or rehearsing in your mind what you will say when contact resumes. It will catch you off guard, this message or call or appearance, breaking through the ordinary fabric of your day with the force of everything they have been holding back during all these weeks or months of silence. There will be no casual small talk, no pretense of having merely been busy or distracted. There will be rawness. There will be vulnerability they have never shown you before. There will be the kind of honesty that can only come from someone who has spent significant time alone with their truth and can no longer bear the weight of hiding it. They may stumble over their words because what they need to say is too big for language, because the inadequacy of vocabulary to capture the depth of what they feel will be immediately apparent, because they will be attempting to communicate an internal journey you did not witness but whose effects you will see written plainly across their face. They may cry. They may shake. They may deliver their confession in fragments and half-sentences that you will need to piece together with your heart rather than your mind. But through the imperfect delivery, through the emotional overflow, through the fear that is still present even in this moment of return, you will feel the truth of it, the authenticity of someone who has been fundamentally changed by the experience of losing you, by the silence that taught them what your presence meant. This moment will not be neat or scripted or anything like the reunion scenes you have imagined during the hardest nights of missing them. It will be messy and human and imperfect and real. It will be two souls who went into darkness separately and emerged carrying new understanding, meeting again from a place of greater honesty than was possible before. And in that meeting, you will have a choice to make, a choice about whether the growth they claim to have experienced is genuine or merely performance, whether you are willing to risk opening again what their absence closed, whether this connection is worth the vulnerability required to truly begin rather than simply return. Share this message with someone who is waiting for their person to come back, someone who needs to know that silence is not always the end of the story, that transformation happens in the spaces between contact, that love does not die in absence but only waits there, gathering strength. But here is what matters more than their return, what supersedes the timing of their reappearance, what determines the quality of your life regardless of whether they ever come back at all. Your power in this waiting, your refusal to make their absence the central organizing principle of your existence, your commitment to choosing yourself with the same intensity you once poured into choosing them. You have already won by deciding that your peace cannot be held hostage by another person's timeline, that your worth is not determined by whether someone had the courage to stay or the wisdom to return, that you are whole and complete and valuable exactly as you are in this moment, with or without the validation of their presence. This is the paradox that the universe wants you to understand, the spiritual law that seems to contradict itself but is actually the key to everything. The less you need them, the faster they come, and more importantly, the less their coming or not coming determines your fundamental okayness. When you release the desperate, grasping energy that comes from making someone else responsible for your happiness, when you step into the version of yourself that existed before they arrived and will continue to exist if they never return, when you alchemize the longing into self-devotion and the waiting into self-discovery, you shift the entire energetic dynamic between you. You stop being the one who is waiting and become the one who is living, fully and richly and without apology. And from that place of centeredness, of self-possession, of internal completeness, you become magnetic in ways that neediness can never achieve. You become the person they saw glimpses of when they first felt drawn to you, the person whose light was not dimmed by their absence, because that light was never dependent on their presence to shine. Their return becomes inevitable not because you manipulated the energy or performed some spiritual technique correctly, but because someone who has found themselves is irresistible. To someone who is still searching, because wholeness calls to wholeness across any distance, because the universe always conspires to bring together what is meant to be together once both parties are ready to sustain it. This story is not finished, even though there have been chapters that felt like endings, even though the silence stretched so long you began to doubt whether there would be more pages to turn. The universe does not bring souls together at the depth you experienced only to leave that connection incomplete, does not orchestrate the kind of recognition that happened between you only to allow it to dissolve into permanent silence. What is meant for you will not pass you by, no matter how many detours the journey takes, no matter how much time elapses between contact, no matter how impossible reunion seems from your current vantage point. The cosmic forces that govern soul connections operate on timelines that your human impatience cannot comprehend, with wisdom that your limited perspective cannot fully see, according to a plan that serves both your highest good and theirs, even when the present moment feels like anything but good. Hold in your mind the image of them standing before you again, not as the person who left but as the person who returns, vulnerable and honest and ready in ways they were not capable of before. See them with eyes that have been opened by their time in darkness, with a heart that has been softened by the loneliness they chose and now wish to unchoose, with words they have practiced in the privacy of their own thoughts until they are finally ready to speak them aloud. This image is not fantasy but future memory, not wishful thinking but energetic blueprint, not false hope but glimpse of what is already forming in the realm of potential waiting to collapse into the realm of actual. Love does not end in silence. It only waits there, gathering strength, deepening roots, preparing for the season when it can bloom again in soil that has been made fertile by time and tears and transformation. Trust the silence. Trust the waiting. Trust the invisible work happening in realms you cannot see. Trust that what is yours is already yours, claimed by forces older than time, blessed by a universe that does not make mistakes with connections this profound. And most of all, trust yourself, the part of you that knew from the beginning this was not over.